Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. So SpaceX and T-Mobile have come out and said that they are going to be getting rid of those dreaded cellular dead zones. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with the Quorum. So SpaceX, Elon Musk, and then I forget his name, the guy, one of the guys over at T-Mobile, could be the big guy. I didn't look that far back in what I was looking at, but they have announced that they are going to be getting rid of, what is a real problem, which is cellular dead zones. That could be, a situation where you're driving through the mountains or in the desert or something like that, and you could be hiking, and you check your phone, you have no service, and then what happens if something happens there? Now, of course, this was the case, not too many years ago where there was no cellular service anywhere, but now with cellular cell phones everywhere, we think we can communicate whenever we need to. But if you're in one of these dead zones, then you have a problem. It's also going to be very helpful if you maybe you're in a situation where there's been a natural disaster and you need to be communicating with people and cell towers are down, or maybe the terrestrial cell towers are all busy. So this is something that's what that's meant for. This is not something where I think, certainly not in the short term, where this is going to be a service. This is not like the normal Starlink service where you can get broadband in these remote areas. This is not going to be capable of doing high-speed data transfer kinds of things, because this is meant for your cell phone. So the nice thing about this is you don't need to get a new phone. Once they get this in place, it's going to take some time. But once you get this in place, you can just use your regular cell phone. Elon Musk was saying you could carry it around in your pocket, probably, but certainly have it out in your hand and get connected to one of these satellites and be able to do, maybe make some calls, maybe send some text, maybe even an image, very possibly a video, he said, depending on how many people are using it at that time. So obviously, if you're somewhere in the middle of the desert and you just want to send somebody a video of yourself, then maybe you could do that. But if there's a lot of traffic because there's been a natural disaster somewhere, then maybe that's not the case. But it is going to take some time. So what I was going to do today, actually, they did a little announcement of this at the SpaceX. I forget what they call it, Starship or what? No, Starship is the rocket. But anyway, they made this announcement at SpaceX, basically, in this really cool situation with all the rockets behind them, the Starships behind them, and the T-Mobile guy came out and talked about it a little bit, and then he introduces Elon Musk, and then Elon Musk talks a little bit, says a lot of things. He goes through some things and maybe repeats himself a couple times. He even says, I think I'm repeating myself. But then they take some questions. So what I did was I took this video and I kind of cut it down to what I thought was the most interesting parts. And then at the end here, I'll post a link to this video so you can watch the whole thing. Not my video, but the whole video if you want to watch that. So I've cut it down a little bit. But let's take a look at that. So this is going to be starting where the T-Mobile guy, sorry that I can't recall his name, introduces Elon Musk here. We all know Elon, so here we go.
And there is no company in the world I would want to trust with a vision this big to partner with us, to aspire to dream these dreams, than the most sophisticated and advanced space organization in the world and its leader, SpaceX and Elon Musk. So please welcome Elon to the stage.
Just a little bit of drama there with the the fireworks or whatever they've got going on. So they're obviously making this a big event.
Hey guys. So welcome to Starbase.
Starbase.
It's something that we really want to emphasize, because I think there might be some confusion out there, is that this is the Starlink second generation satellites will be able to broadcast direct to cell phones. So the cell phones you're holding up there, it will be able to transmit directly to your cellular mobile phone. So now this won't have the kind of bandwidth that a Starlink terminal would have, but it will enable texting. It will enable images, and if there aren't too many people in the cell zone, you could even potentially have a little bit of video. So the important thing about this is that it means there's no dead zones anywhere in the world for your cell phone, and we're incredibly excited to do this with T-Mobile. It's really great to do this. So,
And he mentioned the V2 or V2 version of the satellite, which is going to be much, much bigger. So this is not something that is up yet. That's why this is going to be a while. It's going to be, if we're lucky, it's going to be next year. Now, I'm a T-Mobile customer. This will be great to be able to have this, knowing that this is available, but it's going to be next year sometime. By the way, I don't think we covered in here, but the gentleman from T-Mobile said that this will be something that will be available on most T-Mobile plans where there won't be an additional charge. It'll just be, just the same kind of arrangement where they're roaming with other operators, and they'll be doing this with Starlink. Although for the really lowest price plans, he said there might be a monthly fee for adding this on.
But we do want to work with other partners in other parts of the world, and really enable this as a function anywhere. And we've all read about somebody who's, say, been hiking and got lost and perhaps died of thirst or exposure, or someone that got stuck in a blizzard and froze to death. You could conceivably get stranded on a desert island and be talking to a basketball.
I think it was a volleyball,
but now
actually.
You can call for help. So the thing that I think is really profound about what we're announcing today is that it will save lives. And we will no longer read about these tragedies that happen where people get lost, and if only they could have called for help, they'd be okay.
Should we take some questions?
Yeah.
Sure. All right.
So again, he went on for a while, and then they decided to take some audience questions here.
So first question that came in advance from somebody in the press was, do I need a special T-Mobile plan? And, as I said in my remarks, we're not here to announce the product yet, but my vision for this is that on our most popular plans, we're just going to go ahead and include this. And, we feel like that's what the Un-carrier does. That's important. Now, there may be low-cost plans that don't include it, and there our aspiration is to charge a monthly service fee that will be far less than the monthly service fees charged by today's satellite connectivity services. But for the most popular plans at T-Mobile, our vision is to just go ahead and include it for free, just like we did with the global connectivity for our cellular roaming partners all around the world.
So do Starlink satellites have to be reprogrammed to communicate using T-Mobile's radio band? Actually, we need to do more than simply reprogram the satellites. We are constructing special antenna. Like I said, they're actually very big antenna that are also extremely advanced. They're the most advanced phased array antennas in the world, we think. And it has to be, the antennas have to be extremely advanced because they've got to pick up a very quiet signal from your cell phone. And you can imagine if that's like cell phone, that signal's going to travel 500 miles and then be caught by a satellite that's traveling 17,000 miles an hour. And the satellite's got to compensate for the Doppler effect of moving so fast. So this is really quite a difficult technical challenge. But we have it working in the lab, and we're confident this will work in the field. So it's actually quite a lot of extra hardware on the satellites, and it's also a lot of software, yes.
I don't know if you noticed, this guy who's looking back at the camera now, he had his glasses on the back of his head, and the guy next to him must be streaming this and said, hey, I can see your glasses on the back of your head, so they took them off. Now he's looking back where the camera is. It's pretty funny.
It's a hard problem. That's why it's not been solved before.
So that is impressive. So this is the backdrop of where they're making this announcement. And you can see the starships back there. So these are what are going to be, these are not ready yet, just prototypes. These are what are be carrying this new generation of much bigger satellites into space.
Yeah, so some audience questions?
Yeah, hey guys. Thanks for doing this. Question for Elon. Eric Berger from Ars Technica. You said the Gen 2 antennas are very big. Can you talk about how big those are? Sort of.
So big.
But I mean, NASA has had some issues with another company's antennas because they were really big. So I'm just trying to get a sense of like how big they are. And then, like, how many of these can actually fit in the Falcon 9 payload fairing? Because you've been talking about launching that in addition to Starship. So, thanks.
Yeah, so we think that, like this service will be primarily a Starlink V2 satellite. The Starlink V2 is the main body of the satellite is about 7 meters long, so call it maybe 40% longer than an SUV. Uh, and then the antennas that we're talking about here would be supplemental to the KU and KA antennas that we're currently using on Starlink 1 and to the laser links.
So what he's saying here is that these satellites will be doing kind of dual purpose, it sounds like. So these are going to be doing the normal broadband kind of service that you would get from Starlink with these bigger satellites, but then also he's got this additional antenna that's going to be doing the cellular service, and it's got to be very big to be able to hear. When you've got your cell phone out there, it's got to be able to hear the fact that you want to connect to it. And again, he's talking about this moving at 17,000 miles per hour, the satellite that's up there, and you're compensating for the Doppler effect of, whether the signal is coming toward you or away from you. So there's a lot of math that's going to go in there, and then you need this huge satellite to make this happen.
So the Starlink 2 satellites, we intend to have KA-KU, improved KA-KU, and obviously the laser links. And then in addition, we would fold out the sort of cell spectrum antenna that would be also quite large, so on the order of 5 or 6 meters on a side, so roughly 25 square meters.
So 25 square meters.
And then can you
big.
get those in the Falcon 9 payload fairing?
The Starlink V2 is meant for Starship. We might, yeah, it's meant for Starship, like
These things.
those things.
Those things back there.
So the Starlink V2 satellites are very large and too big to fit in a Falcon 9. But we are actually looking at an interim solution, which is like a sort of Starlink V2 Mini that would maybe launch if the Starship program is delayed longer than expected. Would launch a sort of a smaller Starlink V2 kind of Mini that would fit on a Falcon 9.
Thank you.
Hey, Elon. Luis Balderas with Lab Padre Media. Good to see you again.
I see.
Had a couple of off-topic questions, but I'm going to skip those.
Yeah, we're gonna stay on topic, otherwise.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can imagine, there are several off-topic questions I'm sure people want to ask him related to probably RDOF, and what does he think about not getting that? Could be something about Twitter and, that deal that didn't go through. So anyway, they obviously limited the content and the topics to this particular T-Mobile and SpaceX thing.
Yeah.
So, with this new technology, will this eliminate international plans? And you talked about download speeds. What about upload speeds?
Yeah, this will not. I do want to. This is an amazing thing that we're unveiling, but I do want to make sure that it's understood in the right context. So, the size of the cell that it will be quite large compared to the space-based cell system. The area of the cell will be large compared to a terrestrial system. So this is really meant for places that don't have cell tower connectivity. Because although it's like maybe 2 to 4 megabits capability, that's what the capability is for the entire cell. So if you've got, we're talking about like 1 to 2,000 voice calls per cell, but that cell is going to be quite large. And so it really is, it's not a substitute for ground cell stations, because ground cell stations, especially in urban and suburban areas, will definitely be superior to what we're talking about here. This is really meant to provide basic coverage to areas that are currently completely dead.
Yeah, hey, Paul Michaels with Ocean Camera Space Corp. So both companies are going to work together, kind of contribute different infrastructure together to build a bigger network and stuff. How do you see this maybe going further into the solar system, maybe future partnership there?
Well, we'd love to have T-Mobile on Mars.
There you go.
So that was the last question that I captured. Again, there's like a 40-minute or so video of this with some preliminary stuff, and then again, T-Mobile guy comes out and talks. Elon Musk talks for a little bit longer than I showed, and then a few more questions than I showed. But this isn't broadband. This is broadband deployment news, and this isn't broadband. But I think it's relevant because it does involve SpaceX and their satellite technology. And this, I think people that see this might be wondering, hey, what does this mean as far as broadband over your phone, in areas that currently don't have cell service? Well, it's not that, okay? So it's not like you're going to be able to be doing 5G, in an area that doesn't have a cell tower. What this is doing is it's leveraging T-Mobile's spectrum, okay? So even though T-Mobile doesn't have towers in all of these areas, there are dead zones, they do have spectrum pretty much that covers the country. And this way they can work with SpaceX. SpaceX can use that mid-band PCS spectrum that T-Mobile has, throughout the country, and they can then basically, what SpaceX is doing with these second generation satellites is they're turning them into basically cell towers in space is what it amounts to. So that way, it doesn't matter if there's a cell tower there, they'll be able to use T-Mobile spectrum to reach you when you're in a dead zone. And what T-Mobile is trying to do is, what they would like to do and SpaceX would like to do is they would like other cellular companies throughout the world to be able to do this. And that way, if a T-Mobile customer, and then have reciprocal arrangements. So if a T-Mobile customer goes over to Europe and they're in a dead zone in Europe, then they can roam to that particular cellular provider who has that spectrum there, that mid-band spectrum, and then SpaceX will be doing the work there, I guess the heavy lifting of doing the cellular service, and the same in reverse. So if somebody from Europe or Asia or somebody comes over here and they have a cellular carrier that has a reciprocal arrangement with T-Mobile, then they will be able to, when they're driving through the desert, doing their touristy stuff and they're in an area with no cell service, they will be able to connect up to a SpaceX Starlink satellite and get cellular service. So again, it's minimal. It's kind of like the old days where you can talk to somebody on the phone when people actually talked on their cell phone. You can do that again, and it's one of the few things you could do. And you can text. So very important, as Elon said. This can save some lives. Those people that get stranded in areas where they can't communicate with somebody, and they wind up sawing their arm off because they got stuck or something. I hate to say that, but that happens. They got stuck somewhere where they got stuck in hiking in a rock, and I remember that particular situation. Or, again, a natural disaster where you've got hurricanes, earthquakes, whatever, and communications are just crazy. As long as the satellite's up there and you've got a phone, basically, and you've got T-Mobile service, or, again, some reciprocating arrangement with another provider that's doing the same thing, then you will be able to call and you'll be able to text in that area. So that really is a tremendous service. As he mentioned, the cell area is big, and it's only 2 to 4 meg, basically, that it can handle in that huge cellular area. So in a natural disaster, there's certainly a chance that it could get a little bit overwhelmed, but it does give you that additional capacity if you still have ground cellular coverage. And again, it's better than nothing if you can get, let's say, several thousand calls out and maybe several 100,000 to 1 million texts out of that area through that particular amount of bandwidth that you've got. So very interesting, I thought. Hopefully for you too. If it was, if you would, give me a thumbs up on the video here on YouTube, and then click the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and ring the little bell to be notified when I'm live. Thanks a lot. I will see you next week for Broadband Deployment News. Take care.